But design-wise, you're gonna hate me saying this, I've never been completely sold on the looks.
Yes, these are considered to be amongst some of the most reliable domestic engines ever made, but they're not perfect.
I almost want to invite everyone out there in here to experience it because it's just that wonderful an occasion. Okay, this might just be the very best car in the world. Seriously, it could be. Although it's not perfect. But why isn't it perfect? What goes wrong with them? How are they aging? What do they like to drive and live with now? And should you ever seriously consider buying potentially the world's best car? But before we answer all of those questions and so many more, there's some incredible stuff going on here that you do need to know about, like the tolerances in build quality. Now, Tesla owners will probably deny that this level of panel gap accuracy and just overall build quality is even possible, but it is. Lexus were working to tolerances of 1,000th of a millimeter. And it's not just the panel gaps this way either, it's the panel gaps sort of this way. It's incredible. Honestly, forget Mercedes-Benz or even Rolls-Royce or even Bentley. The only other car that we've ever come across with a higher tolerance of fit and finish is the Toyota Century. But this comes extremely close. Plus, extensive testing was done in the same wind tunnel that was used to develop the bullet train. This means the car is incredibly slippery through the air, and that means minimal wind noise and improved fuel efficiency. All LS 430s feature the same 4.3 litre V8 as found in the Lexus GS 430, the Toyota Crown Majesta, and the Lexus SC430 GT500 race car. And this V8 was the first petrol-powered V8 that was certified as an ultra-low emission vehicle. The LS430 was the pinnacle Lexus model at the time. However, here in Australia, we received just the single trim spec, while internationally, it featured a greater number of model configurations and options compared to previous LS generations. The Aussie trim spec, it was equivalent to the ultra-luxury spec that was available elsewhere. Now, there was a mid-cycle update from the 2004 models onwards, introducing a new 6-speed automatic, revised styling, and an update to the tech and features. And interestingly, in every year of its production, the LS430 took out multiple quality and reliability surveys and tests, and it scored the highest ever result in the history of JD Power's Vehicle Dependability Survey. Although that was a few years ago, because these days, yeah, a few little gremlins may have popped up. Now, pricing-wise, this has become even more attractive because pricing starts from around about $6,000 and tops out at about $35,000 for something really special. Most of them on the used market, they're hovering in that mid $20,000 range. Now, that might seem like some terrible depreciation considering these were asking over $170,000 when brand new, but when you compare it to some of its European rivals in the same category of car, their depreciation just keeps plummeting downwards. The right example of these, the pricing is actually appreciating. In fact, this actual car sold for $18,000 4 years ago, but these days it'd be swapping hands for more like $25,000. This means that the right LS430 might be a smart financial decision. You know what is definitely a smart financial decision? Not paying too much when it comes to car finance. Simply hit the driver link down below because they will find you the very best finance package from loads of different lenders. Doing the entire process is completely free and super easy. There are no hidden fees, and going through this whole process, it's going to have no impact on your credit score. Now let's talk looks and exterior. And yeah, obviously the actual quality is utterly superb, but design-wise, you're gonna hate me saying this, I've never been completely sold on the looks. Isn't it just a little bit too conservative? I mean, look at an A8 or a 7 Series BMW, even the previous generation LS, and they look all wide and squat and a bit menacing. This for me just looks a little bit too boxy, bit too geeky. However, there's a pretty valid reason for that. See, the goal was to provide the very best driving experience as possible, but not just for the driver, but for all on board, and to allow for more rear seat room and to make it easier to get in and out for the Japanese VIPs that are chauffeured around in these. This section of the car had to grow while the footprint had to stay the same, hence boxy kind of geeky looks. But aside from the interesting looks, what are the other complaints regarding the exterior? Well, not many, really. I mean, there's the typical age-related stuff that you'd expect, like the boot struts might be past their best. The door lock actuators, they can play up. Not just an LS issue, but cars of this age, if they've spent most of their lives outside, the plastics and rubbers might need some attention. But the good news is all that stuff I just mentioned, super easy and pretty inexpensive to fix. However, what might not be easy to fix are the mirrors. There can be some switch connection issues, even the actual power folding functionality, it can play up. The problem here is if any of this fails, it might require an entire new mirror assembly, sometimes that can cost over $1,000. Or the other thing you could do is just switch the power folding off and ignore there's an issue at all. Also, a handful of owners complained about some soft closing door issues and some tail light problems, but we wouldn't call them common problems as such. However, if you do have an issue with that or that, they're expensive to repair. Now, this is a big one. If there are any signs of water deep in the boot, just walk away. There are loads of electronics in there. As we all know, water and electronics, they are hardly best friends. That can be a massive nightmare electronically. Just walk away if there's any signs of dampness in there. It'll probably be dry, but just in case. Now, the other big concern here actually has nothing to do with the car, but some of the owners now. Because these have become more affordable, some of these owners are on tight budgets. So if they have an accident, sometimes they might cut some corners when it comes to repairing that accident damage. The problem here is because of the incredibly tight build tolerances, even the slightest bit of dodgy repair work, it can totally ruin the overall aesthetic of the car. Actually, speaking of accident damage, that is why it is absolutely critical that you get a vehicle history report done on really any used car you're looking at. That history report will tell you if the car has been written off, if there's any money owing on it, even if it's been stolen. And to get a vehicle history report, hit the link down there or head to ReDriven.com. Okay, now common complaints and faults inside, well, it's pretty much like the outside. Not a whole lot goes wrong. The biggest complaint surrounds the Mark Levinson sound system, renowned for its sound quality, not so much for its longevity. Loads of owners have complained that the speakers can blow out or the foam seal around them, it can just crumble away. Even the amplifiers can have some issues. Look, chances are you are going to have to replace the speakers, and please do us a favor, use quality items to retain that fantastic sound. Also with the amplifier, the OEM Mark Levinson amplifiers are extremely expensive to replace. Another way to go, bud, is just take it to your local hi-fi or electronics repair place and they can generally fix it for a fraction of the price. Also, a lot of owners have complained about this thing that's referred to as the Lexus LS effect. It's where you'll be deep in conversation with one of your passengers and then you turn to them to see their response to what you've just said and they've fallen asleep. Now, this is not an issue with your conversational skills. Some of the most entertaining people we know, like Jody that owns this car, has felt the ramifications of the Lexus LS effect. Actually, just on Jody, mate, thank you so much for lending your car, and also thank you for having one of the most entertaining and informative YouTube watch channels out there and one of the best watch brands out there. Go and watch Just One More Watch if you're into watches and check out Erebus watches because they're bloody awesome. Also, we highly recommend joining any of the owners groups or forums if you're buying one of these or if you own one, because the knowledge and help they can give you, like they gave us when researching this, is just invaluable. Thank you so much, owners groups. Now, elsewhere in here, obviously plenty of other luxury cars have soft touch materials and premium leathers and whatnot, but quite often they're not the most resilient of interiors. This, however, is different. It easily matches any other brand for just sheer quality, but then it is so resilient. This is Jody's everyday driver. It's nearly 20 years old, has over 150,000 Ks on it, and the wear and tear in here, what wear and tear? The leather, still super, super supple. Okay, it's getting a little bit loose here and there, but that's being very, very picky. Door card's fantastic. All this wood grain, there's hardly any scratches there. Steering wheel, these can crack around the top up here, but in this one, not at all. There's still texture on the steering wheel. That could probably be restored a little bit. It's getting a little bit shiny. 20 years old, but this is phenomenal. Although I should mention, apparently the leather and the seats of the pre-facelift models, it's not as resilient as these post-facelift cars. Also, overall, the design didn't change with the update, but there were just little improvements all over the place. But look, everything in here just exudes immense quality. Actually, fun fact, all of the wood grain that you can see, Lexus and Toyota went to high-end makers of guitars to hone their woodworking skills to get this exactly right. Also, the wood grain, it took 3 weeks to sand and stain properly, and all the wood is from the same tree, so it matches perfectly across each individual car. Lexus also went to the manufacturers of really high-end watches to get the tactility of all the switchgear right and to make the leather more resilient. And then we come to just the sheer ergonomics and comfort. Another fun fact, this has more interior space than an equivalent era S-Class, yet the exterior dimensions are far smaller. But these seats, yeah, I think I've said this in other videos where it feels like you're sitting in a lounge chair. This doesn't feel like a lounge chair. This feels like one of those really, really high-end office chairs. It's just the right amount of supportive. You could sit in here for days and not get a numb bum or a sore back. Maybe the best luxury seats I've ever sat in. Also, The sound, this is going to be weird, but when you get in and close the doors, it's almost like putting noise cancelling headphones on. It is that isolated from the outside world. And also for sound, the engine has been running the entire time I've been doing this piece to camera. We've never done it before because we've never had a car, maybe Toyota Century, that is as quiet as this. Now, as far as the tech and features go, here's another fun fact. This was the very first car that high-end hi-fi manufacturer Mark Levinson deemed a quiet enough environment to be worthwhile of actually fitting their high-end hi-fi gear into. Just wish those speakers didn't fall apart. Anyway, what stuff do you get? As you can see, heaps. And obviously the facelifted cars, they improve and enhance all of these tech and features. However, there are a few highlights for me. Massage seats. In fact, the massage seat function became standard in the post-facelift cars for the back seat as well. Oscillating air vents, so cool, and they still work. Also, these cars have radar guided cruise control from the early 2000s, and it still works. That is amazing. Also, everything is so easy to use. There's no delving through sub-menus on the touch screen. All the buttons are easy to get to. And as I said, with the watchmaking background, the tactility, just using it is really nice. However, the infotainment systems, they are really feeling their age these days, and the sat-nav, forget it, it absolutely sucks. But you can update to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There are plenty of aftermarket options out there, but you know, stay with the vibe of the car, use premium equipment, please. But look, it's all good that it's loaded with a bunch of toys and they're lovely to use. It still has to be a car. Is it practical? Here we go. Enormous glove box there. You've got a little slide out cubby hole here. Under here, you've got the 6-disc CD changer. CDs are gonna make a comeback, okay? I know you don't believe me, CDs are coming back. Center console here, this just moves beautifully, and even the tactility of sliding this little drawer or shelf back and forward to get even more storage in here is wonderful to use. Now look, it does have a cigarette lighter and an ashtray here. Smoking is disgusting, but it was the early 2000s. It's a Japanese car, that's kind of to be expected. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I can see door bins, but they're pretty shallow, aren't they? That can be solved as they slide open and closed more. There's a spot for sunglasses up here. What does Jody wear? He wears Tommy Hilfigers. Very nice, mate. And then, hang on. There we go. And then under the seat, there's a little hidden drawer thing under both sides. And I think that's it for practicality up front. Oh, I nearly forgot. It does have cup holders and they spring out like that. Super cool. I don't know if I can get one of my small pretentious coffees in there, but I think I might move around a little bit. What would I have today? I reckon I have I feel like a Ristretto. Okay, now in the back seat, sharing the initials LS and also sharing the reputation for arguably being the greatest of all time, I'm exactly 13 centimeters taller than Jedi Goat Luke Skywalker. This is in my driving position, and oh my God, this is incredible. Obviously, loads of leg and foot room, but the seats, they're so comfortable. I wish you could feel how comfortable these seats are. And again, everything just feels such high quality. The leather, like that leather, it is so soft, but it's wearing really well. In so many cars, when the leather is this soft, it just gets super loose and a bit gross, but that feels great. The door cards, oh, like that feels amazing. This is in my top 5 backseat experiences of all time. The other 4 I can't tell you about. Sorry to harp on about the wear and tear thing, but you've got to remember, Jody has a toddler. The toddler's normally back here, plus he drives the in-laws around everywhere, and there are people back here all the time. It's not like this doesn't get used. This is used on a daily basis, and look how good it is. And look, yes, obviously the wear and tear will vary from example to example, but this. Okay, and then we come to the features and equipment in the back seat. You've got your own air vents, you've got a power adapter, it's a cigarette lighter, you've got map pockets here, you've got, ashtrays there, but we're going to ignore that. You've got excellent sized door bins, you've got your own vanity mirror with light, you have pull down armrest, which has audio controls. You can adjust your seats via there, you can adjust headrests here, massage function. Oh, turn that off. And then open this up, you've got 2 cup holders, you've got your seat heating here, or your heat seating there, you've got the retractable blind function there, also you've got blinds just here for ultra privacy, and you've got your own little fridge back here for maybe a small bottle of champagne or maybe a small bottle of I don't know, Pinot Grigio from the Marlborough region in New Zealand, 2019, 2020, something like that, delicious. And then as far as practicality in the boot goes, obviously huge amounts of space back here, but then you've got all the features. Air purifier here, you've got the official matching LS toolkit here, which has its own little locking mechanism so it doesn't slide around all over the place like that. You've got a net here so things don't slide around all over the place. Just phenomenal. Even the actual opening aperture is quite large. There's not much of a load lip there for a sedan either, so it's easy to get stuff in and out. Just so intelligent. But as far as safety features go, look, it is a 20-year-old car, so forget anything like autonomous safety features, anything like that. But to take you through what you can expect, seeing we've already mentioned one greatest of all time Jedi, it seems only appropriate that we do this next safety features section in the style of his master.
Receive you will. Airbags 8. ABS, electronic brake force distribution, brake assist, electronic stability control and traction control. Post the 2004 update, knee airbags for front occupants included, and larger front seat mounted side airbags fitted where.
Now look, obviously trying to remember all the facts and figures about the features, not only all the stuff that goes wrong, that would be a complete nightmare. But don't fret, we have got everything listed out over at ReDriven.com on the completely free Lexus LS cheat sheet. It will answer all of your questions. Now, common complaints and faults regarding the driving experience. First of all, the air suspension, which luckily Australian LSs didn't receive. According to the owners, the ride and handling advantage of the air suspension is negligible at best. But if something does go wrong with the air suspension, it can be so expensive to repair. Don't get me wrong, it is a far more reliable air suspension system than you'll find in the vast majority of European competitors. But if something goes wrong, your wallet's going to take a hit. Also, if you want to retain this phenomenal level of refinement, you might need to buy Lexus OEM parts like exhaust systems and suspension components. Some of the aftermarket stuff, it's more targeted towards performance, and that's going to detract from this level of sophistication. The other OEM part that might be expensive, and this goes for all cars actually, is OEM wiper blades. To avoid paying too much, simply hit the WiperTech link down below. That'll get you 15% off and free express shipping on some of the easiest to order, easiest to fit, and best wiping wiper blades we've ever used. But look, besides all that, oh my God, what a thing to drive. This wafts along, no matter what the scenario, easily as well as an S-Class or honestly, even a Bentley. Then the ride quality is outrageously good. This could teach so many modern luxury cars a thing or two about just ride quality. And if you think it's going to pitch and roll like crazy through the corners, it doesn't. It somehow also sits totally flat. And then this engine, obviously incredibly smooth and quiet and refined, but it is so much quicker off the line than I was expecting. Not performance car fast, but very impressive. And mid-gear acceleration, you know, if you're changing lanes or pulling into traffic, it's got so much urge, but it does it in this incredibly elegant way. It's a bit like the car version of Usain Bolt wearing a tuxedo. And then the whole cabin is so quiet. I could have whispered this entire section of the video and you'd still hear me just fine. Even the practical stuff, like the turning circle, this has a better turning circle than a Volkswagen Golf of the same era. You know, I was really worried that the driving experience in this might inspire me to drive and be a complete asshole in the same way that an S-Class or a Range Rover can occasionally do. But this car does the polar opposite. I almost want to invite everyone out there in here to experience it because it's just that wonderful an occasion. I was also worried that with it being such a sensible car, it might make me feel like a retired accountant. But it doesn't, because it has just the right amount of charm and personality to stop that from happening. But look, surely it can't all be good news. Mechanically, what goes wrong with these? I can't tell you. I'm not a qualified mechanic, but Jim is.
The 3UZ FE is basically an evolution of the 1 and 2 UZ FE, and yeah, they are basically some of the most reliable domestic engines ever made. They are old school and they have a timing belt. And now the timing belt also drives the water pump in these. The timing belt recommended change is 150,000 Ks or 10 years. I'd recommend getting it done every 100,000 Ks. The water pump often leaks before it's scheduled to be done, so definitely worth checking and changing sooner. And they're at the age now where they're probably due by time if they haven't done the mileage, so definitely change it. Look, if they've been well serviced, you're really unlikely to have any complications with them at all. At this age, you might see some oil leaks and some small coolant leaks, but overall, very reliable. The higher mileage versions, or if they've been neglected, you might see some oil consumption. But I should mention, these things are way more tolerant of neglect than than all of their European equivalents. Now, although Toyota or Lexus electronics are very good, they are at the age now where you might start seeing a few problems. Some of the plastic connectors might be getting a bit brittle, but overall, most of that stuff is fairly easy to fix. The transmissions in these, the 5 and the 6 speeds, are pretty bloody reliable. Same deal, if they've had a service at some point in their life, you're very unlikely to have issues with it. Sometimes there is some valve body and solenoid complications, but overall, if they've been serviced, very reliable. Because they're affordable, reliable, and a rear-wheel drive V8, a lot of people like to buy them and modify them on a budget. Look, that typically doesn't end well. If it's had any modifications, probably steer clear of it. Just buy one that hasn't been molested.
So after all of that, should you buy one? Yeah, of course you should buy one. In fact, if you're after a car in this sort of category, I fail to understand why you would buy anything else. Based on the objective facts, when compared to the competition, it has superior build quality, better reliability, it's more resilient to poor maintenance, the cost of parts and servicing are more affordable. Unlike the horrendous levels of depreciation the Euro competitors experience, the right LS 430 will often appreciate in value. Plus, fewer LS were sold, making it more exclusive compared to much of the competition. Even when you take into account the subjective stuff like the driving experience, the sense of luxury and quality, even things like practicality and what features you get, this easily matches anything European. And remember, all of this for under $35,000. Like, yes, you should buy one. Just try to find a post-facelift example like this. Make sure you get all the pre-purchase inspection stuff done. Make sure you do your homework. But get in soon because these are surely a future classic. In fact, the only other car that arguably tops this for this sort of money is this. But I have a couple of questions for you. If you weren't to buy this or this, what else would you buy? And if it's going to be something European, why? Thank you so much for watching and see you next time. But to take you through what, not specifically an LS issue, but cars of this age, if they've, Jesus, okay.